Imagine this. You wake up one morning, and your whole body just feels wrong, heavy, like it's fighting against you from the inside. Your head's pounding like someone's hitting it with a hammer, stomach turning over and over, hands shaking so bad you can hardly hold a glass of water, and right there beside you in bed, the man you married 15 years ago, the one who promised to love and protect you until death do you part, opens his eyes, gives you that usual gentle smile, and says softly, "Morning, my love. You look a bit peaky again today. Let me fix you one of my special smoothies, yeah? It'll sort you out." What if I told you that same man has been slowly poisoning you, bit by bit, day after day, all so he can cash in on a life insurance policy he doubled behind your back? This is the story of Eleanor Hargrove from Bath. A wife, a mother, a woman who thought she had the perfect marriage, until the nightmare started creeping in. The betrayal cut so deep it nearly destroyed her. But what she did next, how she turned it all around, God, it still gives me chills thinking about it. Stick around, because this one builds slow, gets darker, and the revenge at the end is so satisfying you'll be cheering out loud. Eleanor Hargrove was 38 years old, and, to everyone who knew her, she had the kind of life people dream about. She lived with her husband Richard in this beautiful old Georgian house on the outskirts of Bath. Ivy crawling up the stone walls, big sweeping gardens with roses, and an old oak tree where the kids loved to play. Views right over the rolling Somerset hills. Richard Hargrove was 42, a high-flying investment banker who commuted into London most days. Tall, silver hair starting to show at the temples, always in sharp suits. He had this effortless charm that made colleagues listen to him and strangers warm to him instantly. Their two children, 12-year-old Oliver and 10-year-old Sophia, thought their dad hung the moon. Family dinners, weekend walks, holidays in Cornwall. On the surface it all looked perfect, like something you'd see in a Sunday magazine. But inside those thick walls, something dark and rotten had started growing. It didn't happen overnight. The symptoms came on so gradually that Eleanor almost convinced herself she was imagining things. Little headaches after dinner that lingered for days. Waves of nausea that hit her out of nowhere, especially in the evenings. Dizziness when she climbed the stairs or stood up too fast. A tiredness that sat in her bones no matter how much she slept. At first she put it down to her job. She ran her own interior design business, always rushing between client meetings in London, sourcing trips to Milan and Paris, chasing deadlines for big country house projects. "It's just stress," she'd tell herself in the mirror while putting on makeup. "I'll feel better once this big job in Gloucestershire is finished." But weeks turned into months, and it only got worse. And Richard, he started being extra attentive. Every single morning he'd blend up this green smoothie for her. "Full of vitamins and antioxidants, Ellie," he'd say, kissing her cheek as he handed over the glass. "Drink it all up. You need to get stronger for the kids." One cold, rainy Tuesday evening in late October, everything shifted. Eleanor had a bad dizzy spell while driving home from a client meeting. She nearly pulled over on the M4, but pushed through. When she got back, she let herself in quietly, hoping to lie down before Oliver and Sophia got home from after-school club. That's when she heard Richard's voice coming from the study. The door was slightly ajar. He was on the phone, talking in that low, controlled tone he used when money was involved. "Yes, the policy is doubled now. Effective last week. No, she doesn't know anything about it. Better that way. The payout will sort everything out cleanly when the time comes." Eleanor froze right there in the hallway, rain dripping from her coat onto the marble floor. Doubled? They already had decent life cover in place. Why on earth would he suddenly double hers without even mentioning it? Her heart started hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. She backed away as quietly as she could, slipped upstairs, and locked herself in the bathroom. Staring at her pale, tired face in the mirror, she whispered, "Richard, what the hell are you doing?" That night's sleep wouldn't come. She lay there next to him in the dark, listening to his calm, steady breathing, and felt pure terror slowly crawling through every part of her. Could the man she'd built a life with really be planning something so evil? The very next morning, the second Richard's car pulled out for the gym, Eleanor went straight into his study. She searched every drawer, every folder, under piles of papers. Nothing obvious at first. Then, she found the small bottom drawer on the right. Locked, heart pounding in her ears, she ran upstairs, grabbed a hairpin from her dressing table, and spent what felt like forever fiddling with it until the lock finally clicked open. Inside was a tiny glass vial filled with clear, odorless liquid. No label. Next to it, printed pages from some dodgy dark web forum packed with disturbing research about poisoning. And right there, a receipt from a chemical supply company in Bristol, dated 8 weeks earlier. Her stomach dropped like a stone. She felt sick right there on the spot. With shaking hands, she took photos of everything on her phone, put every single thing back exactly as she'd found it. Then, she got out of the room fast, heart still racing. That same afternoon, she drove to her doctor without telling anyone. Dr. Hargreaves. These symptoms. The constant sickness. The rashes that won't go away. The tiredness that never leaves. Could someone actually be poisoning me? The doctor's face went serious straight away. We're running urgent toxicology tests today. Eleanor, if you have even the slightest suspicion, you need to speak to the police right away. But she couldn't bring herself to do it. Not yet. This was Richard. The father of Oliver and Sophia. The same man who had carried her laughing over the threshold of their tiny first flat on their wedding night all those years ago. She needed solid proof, something no one could argue with. That evening he came through the door carrying this enormous bunch of red roses, her absolute favorites. "For my beautiful wife," he said warmly, pulling her into his arms and kissing her forehead gently. "You've been looking so pale lately, Ellie. Maybe you should rest more. Let me take care of everything for a while." His eyes stayed on her face just a second too long. Did he suspect she'd been in his study? Eleanor forced a smile. "Thank you, darling. You're always so thoughtful." But inside her chest a storm was building, rage mixed with fear and a deep, deep sadness. Over the next week, the symptoms got stronger. She started keeping a secret journal hidden in her underwear drawer. Every meal he made, every drink he poured, every time he insisted on preparing something himself. Those green smoothies tasted more and more bitter each day. One night after the kids were tucked in bed, she tested the waters carefully. "Richard, I saw the insurance documents. Why did you double my policy so suddenly without even talking to me about it?" He didn't even pause. "Just sensible planning, Ellie. Markets are all over the place right now. The children are growing up fast. I want to make sure you and the kids are completely looked after if anything ever happens to me. Or to you, God forbid." He gave her that warm smile again. Almost perfect. But she caught the tiniest cold flicker in his eyes. That same night she messaged her old university friend, Amelia Brooks. Amelia was a sharp private investigator now, ex-police, based in London. "Amelia, I need you to look into Richard for me. Finances, phone records, emails, everything. Please keep it completely quiet." Amelia's reply came back fast. "Eleanor, if this is real, you are in serious danger. Be extremely careful every single day. I'm starting right now." The toxicology results landed 3 days later. Trace amounts of a toxic substance in her blood, building up slowly but steadily. Eleanor sat alone in her car in the hospital car park and cried until her chest hurt and her eyes were swollen. Why, Richard? After everything we've built together? Let's go back 15 years for a moment. Eleanor met Richard at a fancy charity gala in London. She was 23, fresh out of Central St. Martin's, full of dreams about designing beautiful homes for people. He was 27, already climbing fast in banking, tall and confident with this magnetic charm. He swept her off her feet completely. Weekend trips to Paris, late-night talks about their future, promises of adventures together. Their wedding at St. Mary's Church in a quiet Cotswolds village was pure magic. White roses lining the aisle, her dad walking her down with tears in his eyes. He's a good man, Ellie. You'll be safe with him. If only her father had lived long enough to see what that man really became. But looking back now, the cracks had been there for years. Richard's secret gambling losses that he thought she didn't know about. The late nights at the office that never quite added up. The perfume on his shirts that definitely wasn't hers. Those occasional texts from a woman named Victoria that Eleanor had once discovered, but chosen to forgive and push aside. Now all of it was crashing down on her like a wave. Amelia's first encrypted report arrived a week later. Richard was drowning. Over £350,000 in debt from bad cryptocurrency bets and secret online gambling accounts. His firm was quietly investigating him for missing money. And on top of that, he'd been having an affair with his secretary Victoria Langford for the last 8 months. Hotel receipts from Bath and London, intimate dinners, messages Amelia had still managed to recover even after they'd been deleted. Eleanor read the whole thing sitting under the big oak tree in their garden, while Oliver and Sophia played chase nearby. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. You selfish, evil bastard. I gave up so many of my own dreams for this family. She didn't scream or confront him. She went cold and careful instead. She ordered tiny hidden cameras online, the kind that look exactly like smoke detectors, and installed them carefully in the kitchen and his study when he was out of the house. She started secretly swapping the poisoned smoothies with identical-looking safe versions she made, and hid in a locked cupboard in the garage. She took supplements to help flush the toxins out of her system. Slowly, bit by bit, she started feeling a little better. But she kept acting weak and unwell around him. Richard's impatience was growing. Darling, I really think you should book into that private clinic in Switzerland I mentioned. A few weeks of proper rest and tests. I'll handle everything here with the children. He sounded so genuinely concerned it made her skin crawl every time. One ordinary Thursday evening at dinner, little Sophia looked up from her plate and asked innocently, "Mummy, why are you always so tired after Daddy's special drinks?" The whole table went completely silent. Richard's knife stopped halfway to his mouth. Eleanor forced a light laugh. "Just Mummy, working too hard, sweetheart. Eat your dinner, love." Later that night, in their big king-size bed, Richard rolled over and gently stroked her hair. "You know I love you more than life itself. Don't you, Ellie?" She whispered back, "I know." While her fingers stayed tight around the small can of pepper spray, she now kept hidden under her pillow. Amelia uncovered something even darker. Richard had been married once before. His first wife, a woman named Caroline, had died suddenly when she was only 34. Official cause was heart failure. But the old hospital notes Amelia got hold of showed Caroline had suffered the exact same symptoms for months before she passed. And Richard had collected a massive insurance payout afterwards. No proper investigation had ever been opened. Eleanor stood in the bathroom that night, gripping the edge of the sink so hard her knuckles turned white. Pure burning rage flooded through her. This wasn't his first time. He was a calculated predator who had done this before. She started protecting her future quietly, moved assets into an unbreakable trust for the children, consulted a top divorce lawyer using a completely false name, built her evidence like a fortress. But then came the email that turned her fear into something sharper. Late one night while Richard was supposedly at a long work dinner, Eleanor managed to get into his hidden laptop. The password was their wedding anniversary mixed with the children's birth dates. In a folder simply labeled personal, she found the messages. Correspondence with someone known only as Fixer. The substance is taking too long. She's stronger than I thought. Need a faster method. Make it look like an accident within the next 2 weeks. Her blood turned to ice. He wasn't planning to wait any longer. She stared at herself in the mirror. Her face was gaunt and pale now, but her eyes looked fierce and determined. No more being the victim, she said quietly through gritted teeth. Your time is over, Richard. The next day she took the full dossier to the police. The vial, the toxicology reports, hours of hidden camera footage showing him adding the clear liquid to her drinks, all of Amelia's financial evidence, those terrifying emails. Detective Inspector Clark, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, read everything and looked stunned. This is one of the most calculated attempts I've seen in years. But to make sure it sticks in court, we need to catch him in the actual act. So Eleanor and the police worked out the perfect trap together. That evening she told Richard, keeping her voice weak and trembling, "You're right, darling. I think I do need to go to that clinic. I feel worse than ever." His eyes lit up with something she couldn't miss. "Brilliant decision, love. I'll help you pack tonight and drive you there myself tomorrow morning." That night he prepared the smoothie with extra care, stirring it slowly, smiling to himself when he thought she wasn't watching. Eleanor drank the safe version she had swapped minutes earlier. Then, right on cue, she collapsed dramatically onto the cold kitchen tiles, eyes half closed, breathing shallow. Richard knelt down beside her. He checked her pulse slowly and deliberately. Then he leaned in close, his breath warm on her face, and whispered, "You should have died weeks ago." He stood up, looked down at her motionless body, and said with cold satisfaction, "Finally, it's over." He didn't call for an ambulance. Instead, he walked calmly into his study, picked up the phone and said, "It's done. She won't make it through the night. Start preparing the insurance claim and the story we rehearsed for the kids." Every single word was being recorded on the hidden phone in Eleanor's pocket. But then the moment turned terrifying. Richard suddenly paused. He walked back into the kitchen and stared down at her. Suspicion twisted across his face. He knelt again, pressed 2 fingers hard against her neck. Her pulse was beating far too strongly. "Wait," he muttered. The silence in the kitchen stretched unbearably. His hand hovered near her throat, testing, realizing. Eleanor's heart was slamming so loud she was scared he would hear it. The police were supposed to burst in any second, but those seconds felt like hours. Richard's breathing got quicker. His face changed completely. Just when the tension felt like it might snap, the front door smashed open with a deafening crash. Armed police officers flooded into the house shouting commands. Amelia was right behind them. They tackled Richard to the ground hard. Cuffs snapped around his wrists while he screamed, "She set me up. She's the crazy one. This is all lies." Eleanor stood up slowly. Her legs were shaking, but her voice came out steady. She walked right up to him while the officers held him down and looked him straight in the eyes. "No, Richard. This is justice. For me. For Caroline. For every woman you tried to destroy. You almost had me, but not quite. The trial that followed made national headlines for weeks. Respected banker tried to poison wife for millions. Victoria Langford took a deal and testified against him, spilling every dirty detail. Caroline's old case was reopened, and the evidence was devastating. Richard sat in the dock every day looking smaller and smaller. His charm had completely vanished. His face was gaunt and twisted with hate whenever he glanced at Eleanor. He even tried one last desperate story in court, claiming Eleanor had been making herself ill to frame him. The jury didn't buy a single word. They were out for less than 90 minutes, guilty on every single count. The judge gave him a whole life sentence. No possibility of parole. Richard Hargrove would spend the rest of his days behind bars. In the months after the trial, Eleanor got full custody of Oliver and Sophia. She sold the Georgian house in Bath and moved them all to a peaceful stone cottage in the Yorkshire Dales. Fresh air, open fields, a new start. The children had regular therapy, and slowly they began to heal. Oliver started playing rugby again. Sophia went back to loving her horse riding lessons. Eleanor rebuilt her interior design business even stronger than before, taking on bigger projects and hiring help so she could be more present with the kids. She took them traveling to all the places she had once only dreamed about. Rome, where they threw coins in the Trevi fountain. Santorini with its white houses and blue sea. The wild Scottish islands where they watched puffins and walked empty beaches. And in time, when she was ready, she met Thomas Whitaker, a kind, steady architect from Harrogate who loved her properly. No secrets, no shadows. He adored the children too, and they slowly started calling him a friend. The sweetest part of all came years later. Eleanor saw a short news piece online. Richard, broken and completely forgotten, just staring blankly at a wall in a high-security prison, while she was out there living free, successful, surrounded by real love. To anyone listening right now who has ever had that quiet, sick feeling in your gut about someone close to you, trust it. Write everything down. Take photos. Reach out for help. You are so much stronger than any monster who tries to break you. If this long story of betrayal, fear, courage, and ice-cold justice kept you hooked right until the end, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had a terrifying gut feeling about someone you loved? What would you have done in that kitchen when Richard started to realize the trap? We read every single comment. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear a story like this. Stay safe out there, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next heart-pounding tale. Thanks so much for watching.